right, fight fans, welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. I'm your boy Bodkins, and of course, with me, as always, is Mr. Bobby Blunts. Bobby, the Apex card that was a little bit of a snooze fest. In fact, only two fights did not go to the decision. But one fight that did go to the decision, but I thought it was dominating fashion, was the main event. Aljamain Sterling remind us, he is still that guy. I'm a little upset at myself, Bob, because I said I picked him on the show. And then when I went and placed a bet, I just placed his money line. And I should have placed, in my head, I knew the only way I thought he was going to win was by decision. And I didn't place the bet by decision, but I still won some money. So there was that. But I was a little upset I didn't place the decision. But your thoughts on the Funk Master, kind of reminding us, he really is one of the best.
Yeah, dominant performance by Aljo. You could probably make a case he only lost one round, and it was basically just getting kind of controlled with defense and stuff. And yeah, he, reminded everyone that he is a former champion. He is at the top of this division. I did find it pretty impressive the way he was cage cutting, especially not knowing that, striking is his main bread and butter, but he obviously is trained very well. And especially like in Zalal's last fights, where he was just able to dance around the entire ring. Aljo did a great job in being able to cut him off and, did a lot of sweeps and trips on him. And I think after the first round, there really wasn't any question that he was going to get it done there. And, Zalal was riding a huge winning streak. So very good quality win for Aljamain Sterling. Especially if you compared it to the Ortega win. I said last week I didn't really know what I could take away from that fight.
I thought this was his best win at featherweight.
Yeah, no, definitely. He looked good. At first, I thought he was gassing through the middle of the fight, but I think that was just my eyes playing tricks on me because, he didn't really slow down or anything cardio-wise. But, all class performance by Aljamain Sterling. And, there are not too many people I would, other than Evloev and Volk, I would probably favor him to beat everyone at the top of the rankings at the moment.
Yeah, a couple of things. There was, Zalal had a moment there. I think it was the second or third where he had Aljo in a choke, and Aljo said it was pretty tight. The guillotine was pretty tough, tight, but was able to he's like, if it was training, I probably would have tapped, but with all this, everything on the line, I didn't, and was able to pull himself out. I thought you're right though. I thought after really, I was like, I watched watching the first and second, Zalal had a pretty good third, but then Aljo bounced back. But I just thought like like you said at the first, I didn't think there was anything. I was like, oh, Zalal's better than Aljo at this. I just was like, Aljo is about to just wrestle him and wear him out. And that's exactly what happened. Almost, it was like rinse and repeat. So what a game plan. I'm right there with you. He called for a title shot afterwards, kind of acknowledged that Mozart should be next. But either said, give him Mozart or, are the champ. I'm totally good with that. And I probably would, I don't know if I'd favor it. He lost to Mozart in a close, kind of a close-ish fight. He feels him and Alex, I think, would be great. And you could see him going either way here. But if, Mozart is next, what does Aljo go from here? Is it Diego? Do they try to feed him to your boy Silva?
If he wanted to wait out for the winner of Volk Evloev, granted that is not signed. We're just assuming that's the fight they're going to make. I really would have no issue with it because, he does have the history with Evloev for rematch purposes if he were to win. I understand the high stakes of the Volk fight, at least for his career path and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. You already know where I'm going with this. And I know it's getting tiring that anytime we see a good performance at 145, I want to match him up with John Silva. But give me John Silva. I mean, I think Aljamain would beat him.
We have literally matched him up with everybody at 145.
Yeah, no, I know it's getting old. I mean,
everybody but the champion. Everybody but the champion.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're catching that drift, because that's the main thing I'm trying to point out is anyone but a title shot next for John. But like just stylistically, I do think Aljo would obviously be favored because of the size and the grappling, but John Silva also has very serious power. I mean, we saw Aljo slip with O'Malley getting caught. So
Yeah.
To me, that is still a very intriguing fight. And I'm not sure if it's the way the direction the UFC would prefer to go, because, you know, they are obviously pretty high on Silva, and that, in my opinion, would be kind of throwing him to the wolves.
They're not high on Aljo. Like they've just, you know, they've always kind of shit on him, like for whatever reason.
And that brings me to like my main point I was trying to get across is I'd be pretty surprised if his next fight was for the belt, and that he is going to be able to sit out and wait for the winner of Diego Volk, or not Diego. God, we better not get that again. Volk Evloev. And especially, like, I found it very telling that he wasn't even aware that he was on the last fight of his deal. So apparently he just re-upped his contract with the UFC. But I mean, Hunter kind of mentioned they weren't sure if he wanted to be in the organization. And, you know, I think Hunter is kind of just using that more as a negotiation tactic. But, you know, the benefit for Aljo is he does have ways of earning money outside of the octagon, even if the UFC, you know, pulls his bottles of rum off the table. But, you know, he's going to get his name out there, and it's why I can't really fault him for asking for the title shot next, because, you know, what else do you really expect him to do?
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind seeing it. What I was saying earlier is they are in the John Silva. We know they're in the John Silva business. I don't think they want to be in the Aljo business. So why not just try to get in the John Silva business and have him knock out Aljo, and so you don't have to be in that business, is where I was kind of going, if they decide to do that. And I could see them doing that.
It reminds me of a similar risk that they kind of calculated when they matched O'Malley up with Aljo, saying, hey, you know, obviously Aljo's going to be favored in these grappling exchanges, but there's a chance he might make a mistake and get caught. And that's exactly what happened. So it wouldn't shock me if they tried to, you know, kind of rinse and repeat that same strategy. But, you know, like, even if we're talking the winner of Diego Steve Garcia, I would sign up for Sterling to fight the winner of that.
Yeah, I like that. It'll be interesting what they do with Aljo. Any other thoughts on the Apex, Bobby?
Did Rob have a comment pertaining to what we were talking about, or was it just
yeah, he was just saying the right or wrong on Aljo, pretty much like the reason nobody likes Aljo's for the way he won the title against Jan, which I think that's kind of when things changed for him. Like, you know, people still go back to that 6 years later.
Yeah, no, I get it. So a lot of people will never forget that. So,
but he won he won the next time out, like dominated Peter Yan.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the only time I remember it is when it's brought up in these scenarios. Like,
yeah,
in my mind, I kind of forgot about that a while ago. You know, honorable mentions. Shout out to Jocelyn Edwards for getting the win for Norma Dumont. That was a good underdog win for her.
Yeah.
So definitely some interesting things there. Rafa Garcia, definitely have to give him credit. I'm really going to be watching all these guys that are in Cub Swanson's camp. And, he just really seems to be able to get through to these guys, and they're pretty damn good as well. So I'm kind of always going to be, keep an eye on that. Davy Grant just
I was gonna say, shout out to the veteran, the old man, Davy Grant, still got it, baby. 40 some odd years old and still having fun fights. That was one of the best. That was probably the best fight of the night.
Yeah, I mean, aging like fine wine. The fact that his footwork is still getting better at 40 years old is amazing. But he looked really good against a up and comer in Martinelli that had the probably best Dana White Contender Series fight we ever watched. And he was going to keep coming forward the entire time, and Davy Grant knew that and had great footwork and just beat him up for 3 rounds. So he, I don't really know what they're going to do next with him, but if it's Davy Grant fight, I'm always tuning in because it's pretty interesting. And, the heavyweights were a little dicey, but I do have to give credit to Ryan Spann for absolutely flatlining Marcus. It was kind of a comical KO when we saw it. Shout out to Herb Dean for actually being on top of that stoppage and not getting more damage. But the prelims on the Apex did kind of drag because there were a lot of decisions, but there were some fun other matchups as well. So
true that. Says I don't know, some weird sphere. Cody Durden on 2 days' notice. Yeah, shout out to Cody Durden. It's like his 10th fight of the year.
Yeah, I didn't see the name of who commented that, but thank you for reminding me of that. Short notice and absolutely just showing up. And sometimes he's in these short notice spots and it doesn't work out for him. This time, I think it just kind of benefited his game plan that, he didn't really have too much to think about throughout a fight camp or anything. And he pretty much, just made weight and fought. And really good showing for him. Hopefully, I'm sure they hopefully took care of him for coming in on short notice. But, I'm sure the next fight he takes will probably be on short notice the way the UFC has been doing their booking recently.
Oh, it's just AI. AI. Hey.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Hey, appreciate it. Yeah, Bobby. Real quick before we get into this jam-packed weekend, there's been some news and notes just kind of floating around. What do you make of? It seems like it's all been confirmed. From other sources, it's going to be BSD versus Patty at International Fight Week. This is I like this fight.
Yeah, good fight for both guys. I was kind of wondering how they were going to book Patty after the Gaethje loss, and it does not seem that they're
not a step down. If anything, it might be a step up, just as far as like where dudes are at in their career.
Yeah, no, definitely not a step off in competition. So they're definitely giving him someone still decently ranked and very dangerous, and I mean, stylistically, I think that's just going to be a very fun fight. Could go a multitude of ways, but definitely fits with like an international, fight we book in. Patty brings in a decent amount of people. He has a pretty decent following and fan base, and BSD, whether win or lose, I can't ever think of him being in a boring fight. So that should be, we're assuming it's confirmed. It's not official, but they're both kind of dropping hints. So I think we can put 2 and 2 together on that one.
Yeah, we may not be the sharpest tools in the shed, but we're sharp enough to figure out that they're it looks like that's a done deal. So that's going to be a good one. There was already another fight announced for that one. It was like the first fight. I can't remember who it was, but I was like, oh, it was another big name. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, and now it's gonna piss me
I'm
off.
blanking on that, but I remember when I saw it, that was like absolute back and forth violence. That one should be fun. I'm assuming it's going to be on the undercard, but yeah,
I don't know,
I'm
but
also.
I looked on ESPN just real quick on the app. The only thing they have on that card is Gable Steveson blank.
First TBD.
Yeah, versus TBA. This says TBA to be announced. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I think the masses really don't care who his opponent is because we've kind of come to the conclusion that they're probably just going to sign someone. I mean, they might book him with someone that is already with the UFC, but
you know who would be fun for him? I think dude who just was in that bloody war bath that told Dana White on the Contender Series he'd suck his toes and stuff. Asplund.
that would be fun and interesting. I would be surprised if they start him off that hot, though. I expect it to be kind of the slow, kind of we're high on you. We're going to build you up. We're not, you know, trying to kill you out the gate with debuting you against a guy on Contender Series, even though, you know, he's coming off a loss. That definitely would be a fun fight. I would prefer it more than probably what we're going to get. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. But I felt like there was a fight I was sensing. Let's get into this. I mean, it's a jam-packed, weekend as far as combat. We have some boxing. We'll talk here a little bit later. But you wake up early Saturday morning, Bobby. At I don't know what time is that for you? 4 a.m.
4 a.m. I think is when the main card is supposed to be starting.
Yeah, so 6 a.m. my time. So that's perfect for the main card. It's UFC Perth, and one of the best fights I think. This was announced of the year. You know, JDM versus Carlos Prates in the main event, and then you get you got Beneil Dariush versus Cell Kid coming. You know, big jump up for Cell Kid in the co-main event. Tim Elliott versus Steve Erceg as well. So like right there, those three fights alone are really good.
Yeah, no, the three at the top, a very good quality main event with JDM and Prates. I can't say it enough. It's probably the third or second fight I'm looking forward to the most this weekend. I'd probably put it at two. I'm really surprised that Erceg is such a huge betting favorite. I'm not sure if that's because of him being in his hometown or what, but you know, Tim Elliott is no punk and is a very scrappy guy, and Erceg chin has been kind of tested before, so that one on the card is probably the most interesting one that I'm really unsure of what could happen. I could see it going really either way, but
yeah, right now Erceg's minus 235.
Okay, so maybe some money went out of him because I thought he was more of like a 3-1 favorite. So maybe gambling Twitter is acknowledging that Elliott is the dog on the night. No, we're not going to pull out the dog mask for a fight night, but if it did, that'd probably be your choice.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. But Dariush at plus 340 right now. I mean, I know that Scout Kid is dangerous. We've seen him knock out, and we've seen Beneil Dariush. He's coming off a bad knockout too. But I mean, maybe he's still got some tricks up his sleeve that he can take Scout Kid down and get that on the ground.
Yeah, especially in Quinlan's last fight, you did see him get controlled for a little bit with the grappling before he got done. Yeah, that is definitely a one that you look at it and you figure, okay, Quinlan should get this done. But at the same time, Dariush is a motherfucker, and he always seems to show up in these scenarios where you think he's getting like put over and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, he's done it a few times where it's like, oh, they're trying to, kind of bump this guy up in the rankings. We're going to feed him to Dariush. And then it's like, it doesn't work. And then it's like, well, okay, Dariush is still sticking around, but then he can't kind of beat those top. He's not good enough anymore to beat those top level type guys.
And I'm pretty sure this was the original fight booked when they announced it. I don't think there was a fallout. So he does have the full camp. Maybe the most interesting thing in that one would be really just the travel and stuff and having to adjust to the time zone. I mean, obviously, Quinlan's from there, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But, at the same time, Dariush is a vet, so I wouldn't really expect that to really play into if he doesn't have a good performance or not. But I think we're going to really learn a lot about Quinlan if he can kind of hang in a, pretty decent division and beat some of these ranked guys, or if he's going to need some good time. I do agree. The line on that is kind of shocking. I mean, I know a lot of the times in the betting market, it seems like you're only as good as your last loss there, but that is a pretty juicy number there for sure.
Yeah, so Dariush by submission is plus 1,400. By decision is plus 900.
Yeah, well, this time remember to bet the decision or submission instead of betting money line. Okay.
I might throw some on the decision by Daniil, but I mean, I might throw a little bit of both. That 1,400's juicy.
Yeah.
I mean, not much, but just a little. And Salkid by submission is 500. Let me see here. What do they got his for? KO is minus 200 for Salkid.
Yeah, I mean, Salkid has definitely seemed to be kind of a fan favorite. I mean, I'm not talking about over there in Australia. Obviously, he's a fan favorite, but it seems like a lot of people over here kind of seem to be a fan of him, and so I think a lot of people are hoping that he gets it done. But even Dariush kind of getting up there in the tooth, he can still kind of go to his bread and butter and get stuff done. So these top three fights are pretty elite. I'm glad they got Marwan Rahiki, a replacement opponent, even if it's on a week notice, considering he was there. So that one should be good. They did put a decent amount of local talent on here. And I think the biggest plus side for this card is it is in the local Perth time. This is the first time they've ever gotten a local card. And hell, I mean, if you're paying that type of a site fee, I think it should be their local time, especially with everything being on Paramount now. It's pretty easy to, rewatch. I mean, I know obviously you could rewatch stuff right away with ESPN, but I'm more mentioning like for numbered events and stuff. I don't think there's any reason not to have them in the prime time of the location they're doing. I mean, mainly just for the crowd. You don't want people keeled over at 3-4 in the morning like me trying to wake up to watch this shit like in the crowd. Like that really doesn't do the product any favors there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Tai Tuivasa. This has got to be. It's a win or go home for Tai. I feel like. Well, he's taking on a short notice guy too. At that.
Well, that is the one that there was the fallout in opponent, and I think where I stand on this. I would have been happy if they just removed it entirely, but at the same time, I'm always going to have a soft spot for the Shoey King, so it's hard to just brush him off like that. So I'm hoping he will get back on track. This is probably his best chance to do it, and I guess we can only hope with that one.
Yeah, and how about Jacob Malkoun taking on Gerald Meerschaert? Malkoun's he's been hot too the last few fights. He's looked good, and taking on the ever game veteran Gerald Meerschaert.
Yeah, that's the one I had circled like on the prelims. I know they're high on Malkoun. We're never really sure kind of how good he is because of his strength of competition. But Gerald Mearshart is a lot of times he's a very quality fighter. You just don't know kind of what you're getting from him. But at the same time, it's like never an easy night in the office. So that should be a pretty entertaining fight. I'd be pretty surprised if Malkoun would just bulldoze him over. But, at the same time, I'm not trying to really underrate Malkoun. I just really don't know what I'm getting from him yet. But I know there are a lot of people that are high on him. So that is probably for one, that fight deserves to be on the main card. But that's a whole nother thing. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, Rob's got a point here. He said the UFC goes to Australia, Perth. They'll always call Tide regardless of his record. That's probably true. He's always going to bring a crowd.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite there and here. I don't know too many people participating in a Tide to Ivasa hate watch. Most people would prefer to just see him win,
They're doing everything they can. Get the bum off the street. Ty needs a win just so we can say we can keep him around.
Is Sutherland his short notice opponent, or is that the other heavyweight fight?
No, Louis Sutherland is his short notice opponent.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your favorite fighter, Junior Tafa?
I completely forgot he was on that. That's on the main card too, right?
No.
Okay. No, I don't really have anything against the Tafa brothers. I just every time they're on the card, it seems like it's designed to figuring, well, this one will end quickly one way or the other. So, let's put it on there and give the people what they want. So that's about all I got for the Tafa fight.
Let's get into the main event, Bobby. So let me ask you real quick before we do. So are you picking Elliott or Steve Erceg? I'm riding with Steve-O. Steve Carell.
Yeah, I don't know. My heart says Erceg for sure, but Tim Elliott continues to, get these tough matchups at flyweight and still figure out ways to get it done. So I'll probably lean with picking Erceg, but on next Wednesday, if we're talking about Elliott winning, it would not shock me at all. I view this a lot more as a 50-50 fight than a 2.5 to 1 favorite. So everyone in the flyweight division, ranking or not, anyone can really lose. That's how quality that division is.
Yeah. Let's get into the main event. One guy's coming off a knockout win of a former champion. The other guy is a former champion, but this is his first fight since losing the belt. Both fought in November back at MSG. It is JDM, the hometown boy, versus Carlos Prates going into enemy territory. Prates has been on quite the run since the loss to Ian Gary. Obviously, JDM became the champ and lost the fight to Islam back in November. But it was an absolute doozy. If Prates wins, he probably puts himself kind of right in this mix of, a title shot.
If it was any other division, I would definitely agree. It's just so stacked at the top there. But yeah, definitely getting a win over the former welterweight champion. He may have got 50-45 by Islam, but it's literally getting 50-45 by the GOAT. So I think we'll hold some grace for that performance.
Yeah, the only person that does well against him is Volk when he's on not on 7 days rest or 7 days. Has more than 7 days to notice.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, this is probably,
A striker's delight. I mean,
yeah, well, especially if you're going off like main events they've done, especially for fight nights. This is probably the most entertaining, fan-friendly fight, and good enough to where I'm not gonna complain about having to wake up early to watch it. I think that's the main one I want to watch live. I'm gonna do my best to catch it from the Urseg fight up to get all three live, but kind of the beauty of Paramount, you're able to just streamline through, get through the entire card in an hour and a half and some change. You don't have to listen to Yanni the Greek give you a bunch of terrible gambling advice. And, obviously Paramount are going to get their ads in there regardless. But I don't mind the streamlined process. I mean, I know you prefer having pancakes with knockouts, so there probably won't be many complaints with you. And on a normal day, I'd say we get to kind of go on with our day, but there's quite a bit still on the menu there. And it is kind of ironic that they have this prime time slot when the Inoue fight is also in Tokyo. And I'm really just worried that the main event for the UFC and the Inoue fight are going to, be on at the same time.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I'm going to have to prioritize the monster and run back JDM and Prates. But I am equally excited for this fight. It has very big stakes, and we're going to learn a lot, especially you would think if Carlos has the success, he's not going to need the 25 minutes. But, JDM went toe-to-toe with Bilal for 25 minutes. So I would say the 5 rounds definitely favor Jack in that sense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. One thing that JDM for the first time in his last 2 fights, he's not going to have to worry about really defending the takedowns. Carlos isn't a guy that's going to stand there, try to shoot and take down and everything else. It's just, this is going to be a stand-in fight. And JDM's tough too. Like we've seen him in some wars. Him and Kevin Holland had a war a couple of years ago. That was a lot of fun. Prates is, even the Ian Gary fight, he almost got Ian out of there in the 5th round. So it's like can finish dudes, and he's done it quickly a lot of times. I mean, we saw what he did to put Leon Edwards' lights out the last time out. Here's some betting odds for the fight here. So JDM, so right now it's pretty much even, minus 105 for JDM, Prates minus 115. But by victories here, this is JDM TKO by plus 250, by submissions plus 1600. And then you got JDM by decision plus 300. Prates by decision is plus 450. Prates by submissions 2000, and Prates by KO is plus 150. So you can see that they clearly think Prates by knockout is the way to go in the betting world.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the betting line of the fight, it just kind of shows the quality main event we're getting. I mean, it's more or less basically a pick-em. And I do wonder if, JDM kind of adopts Ian Gary's game plan of trying to really maintain the distance and slow the pace of the fight down with some grappling and stuff. That would really not shock me at all. I mean, I know we're just kind of expected to get back and forth striking, but it really wouldn't shock me if JDM tried to maintain the distance, grapple, and get to those rounds 4 and 5. But you led with it with Ian Gary. I mean, Prates has dangerous power for fighting for 25 minutes. So you got to be on your P's and Q's the entire time.
Who are you picking here?
Stylistically, I still really favor Prates' style for this fight. And You know, the betting line shows it close, so it wouldn't shock me at all if Jack is able to get back in the W column. But I just don't really know how well he matches up with Prates' fighting style, and I'm picking Prates because of that. It would not shock me if he is able to get him out of there with a finish either.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I'm going to go the other way, though. I think JDM just has a little bit more tools in the game, in the toolbox. Like I do think that he could maybe try to take down Prates. And I just think he's an elite striker. Not saying that Prates isn't, and I think Prates has got that, like I said, that one punch power that can kind of get you out of there. But I think JDM, because he's been in these 5 rounds, before. We know he can go there. We don't know if Prates. I guess he went 5 rounds with Ian Gary, so he can. And the 5th round was his best round. Never mind. There goes that point. Duh, Nick. But I'm going to still go JDM just because he's got more tools. I just think he's just got a little bit better, and it goes 5 rounds. I'm going to go JDM by decision.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I also find it quite ironic. The one time I go with the fighting nerd, you go the other way. So kudos to you on that as well.
Yeah, I was going to see. I was trying to see what the over under was on the rounds.
I would, if I could guess before you say it, I would say 3.5.
So fight goes the distance is plus 150. I don't see round betting. I don't see the over under rounds here on, at least not on MGM. But yeah, I'd say you're probably right, 3.5. So
yeah, I mean, I would kind of expect, even though like JDM's probably best odds are to win the fight by decision, I would kind of be expecting the books to figure it finishes inside the distance with just their 2 styles.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it here on FanDuel, because now it's going to piss me off. Where? Oh, here it is.
I think the better juice on that one would be to parlay whoever you got the winner of with another fight instead of playing with the props.
Yeah. Oh, it is right. We were right. 3.5 is the overs minus 106. The unders minus 120.
Yeah, so slight lean on the vig on the under, but yeah, it kind of just shows the coin flip of the fight.
Yeah, Bobby, you mentioned we got some boxing to get into as well. It is, I think, maybe one of the best. You can make an argument he's the best boxer on the planet. In a way, he's fighting in Japan. I don't think he's just quite known enough because he continues to fight in Japan, and I feel like he needs a big fight over here.
I don't need to see a big fight over here. I'm just thankful that this is not in Saudi Arabia like his last fight. And, shout out to the Japanese. They really showed up over there. It was probably the loudest I've ever heard that arena for a fight. So, they definitely show up for their own there. Nakatani had a fight on that same card. I really hate when boxing does that. Like, the fight we want, and you're going to play with the fight gods and book him with someone else. And
right.
He was doing great in the beginning of the fight, just moving forward, insane combinations, slick uppercuts, just insane volume. But he definitely slowed down in the middle of the fight. There were a lot of people that were scoring it live that thought he might have even lost. But, I mean, obviously he did get the win. credit to him for not really changing up his style. He didn't really like try to dance and get out of there. He was just standing and trading. So he's got a hell of a chin. But yeah, I don't think it's hyperbole to say this might be the best boxing fight we get this year. Strength of competition. Both guys are 32-0. It's in Japan. I mean, this is like Earl Spence versus Bud Crawford if it was in Japan, but people are going to hate when I say this. It's probably 10 times bigger than that. I mean,
well, I think it's bigger in Japan. Oh, it's bigger than that because Spence was coming off the car accident and hadn't fought, in a couple of years. So I think you're getting two guys that are kind of in their prime. And the fact that it's happened in Japan, like that's also huge. I think that I feel like not enough people are talking about it because it is in Japan. But it being in Japan, the atmosphere will be insane for both fighters.
Yeah, I mean, as someone that really appreciates the crowd in Ryzen and stuff, like you could see the kind of education of the fan base, like knowing when to cheer. You will never see them booing. And this, like One Samurai had a card yesterday, and I think they were trying to play into knowing that this is one of the biggest fights of the year in Japan and wanting it kind of on that same week there. And, there's even another title fight for the co-main event for this. So this is the one personally for me that is most crucial that I make sure I am watching live. I want to kind of experience this one with everyone. Maybe the West Coast will work against me in that fact. Worst case scenario, I just am able to rewatch it on DAZN. But by far my most anticipated fight of the weekend by a country mile. And that's coming from someone that is still extremely high on the Prates JDM fight.
Yeah, I thought there was it's May night. Yeah.
Benavidez is also fighting later in the day, but completely.
I was say, isn't there was another one too, right? Benavidez so we got the Inoue fight will happen right about, you said, the same time, and then the Benavidez fight that's later on Saturday night as well.
Yeah, I to my knowledge, the Benavidez fight is going to be more on kind of the prime time, like nighttime broadcast there. So
yeah, Gilbert Ramirez, he's taking on Gilbert Ramirez versus Benavidez.
Yeah, I'm also just kind of grateful that the UFC is on that early, so I don't really have to worry about a dual screen thing. Obviously there is a PFL event in Sioux Falls, which if boxing is not your cup of tea and you just can't enjoy it, there is still some MMA on that's on ESPN too. And for all the people that bitch saying that they go head to head with the UFC, even though that is ESPN's decision as their broadcast partner, like PFL is just being a good soldier. If you're that type of person, you better watch that PFL Sioux Falls event. I know you won't, and you're just going to complain on the internet about it, but throwing that out there. But for all the people that can't get into boxing because they just don't like the pace and appreciate the footwork and stuff, I promise you the Inoue Nakatani fight will not be that in the slightest. These guys are going to stand and trade, and this is going to be a very enjoyable fight for any combat sports fan.
Yeah, that's kicking off so the card starts at 5:40 Eastern. So that's like 2:40 your time, maybe.
Yeah, it starts 2:30 a.m. my time, and
so I mean, you should be able to. I think it should be over before the main event of the UFC, maybe.
That is definitely my hope, but I rarely kind of get things that I want So I'm just kind of preparing for the worst case scenario. But yeah, hopefully they don't coincide each other, and I'm able to just enjoy both of them live. But either way, I'm watching both of them. High stakes on both sides.
Who you like in the Inoue fight? I'm picking Inoue.
Definitely, I do think Nakatami's style does match up decently with Inoue, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on Nakatami. But at the same time, especially seeing how he slowed down past like round 7 and 8, because that was also that fight at Riyadh was his first fight at that weight class. So I would have to imagine if he slows down like that, Inoue will just be able to capitalize, and eventually his power will kind of overtake him, and he will get his hand raised. But make no mistake, just because I'm picking Inoue does not mean this is not going to be a very entertaining kind of back and forth fight. I think everyone is kind of going to win in this scenario, and as the announcers will say, someone's O has got to go. And it's very rare you get guys in their prime like this, both 32-0 fighting each other. So I'm just happy that we're getting in it, and I'm going to embrace it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna pick. Like I said, I'm picking Inoue. I really think you can make a case that he's maybe the best. You know, Bud is retired, so you can make a case that Inoue is the best boxer on the planet.
He's definitely up there in the pound for pound rankings, and especially if you're talking about him fighting the best at the top and everything as well. I would definitely hear an argument for it. I definitely appreciate these smaller guys in boxing because of the output, and it's just very fan friendly. So yeah, very well could be at the top of the pound for pound. I mean, honestly, he kind of already should be. I think
him.
The only reason
I
he
guess
isn't,
Usyk's right there too. Like it's probably, you know what I mean, Usyk or Inoue.
Yeah. Well, I think the only reason he's not talked about more is kind of like you said. There are a lot of people that just are not familiar with him because a lot of his fights are over in Japan and stuff. But make no mistake.
That's what I mean. I just think for popularity wise, to realize for people how good he is, he needs a primetime spot here in the United States. He needs a big fight in Vegas.
Yeah,
or LA or something.
If they did that, I'd do everything in my power to get to that. I would not, even if they had it in Vegas, I would go. That is, to me, he's like, drop everything you're doing and make sure you're watching this fight, whether that's live or, on DAZN there.
Yeah. And wake up. And so is the play, Bobby, are you going to go to bed early and wake up early, or is it stay up all night and then go to bed when the fights are all over?
I'm playing it by ear. Realistically, I'll probably start with a little appetizer from the UFC, but at the same time, depending on how that card starts, it also might put me to sleep. So, realistically, I think the top 3 UFC fights are the ones I'm going to make sure that I'm watching live. Yeah. And the rest, I'm probably just going to go back and watch. But who knows? Maybe we'll get some coffee and brew an all-nighter. But if the Inoue fight was not on, I'd probably be a lot more inclined to do that. But knowing that I want to be kind of locked in on that, I want to be fresh and not half asleep and stuff. So, I think the best course of my plan will be to figure out what the walk times are on that fight and try to catch those top 3 UFC fights and go from there. Because, I mean, you know me, I'm going to watch it all back regardless. I'm going to watch back the entire Japan card, even though the Inoue fight is the one I want to get live. Yeah. And probably gonna have to go back and watch the PFL too, because I'm definitely very interested. I know some people are complaining about the opponent for Benavidez, but I'm just more curious to see him at that weight class. 2 belts are on the line. They're kind of leaning into the Cinco de Mayo weekend for that one. And I know there are other opponents that people probably would have picked for him. But, Ramirez is 48-1. So, he is a champion. And I do think the all kind of Mexican fighter versus Mexican fighter will kind of bill well. And I'm equally looking forward to that. That's probably like my number 3 of most anticipated fights for the weekend. But the only reason I don't have it 2 is because I'm kind of assuming I know the outcome of that fight, where I'm really not sure what we're going to get with Prates and JDM.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I didn't think about it on Cinco de Mayo, but when you mention it, no Canelo fight. I feel like this is always kind of one of his weekends that he's always fighting. It's weird not to see Canelo out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Bud retiring put a kink in that. I kind of assumed either way, Canelo would kind of prefer a tune-up fight as is. So,
right.
Maybe things didn't line up there. I know Turkey is pretty committed to having him signed. So I'm kind of assuming his next fight is going to be in Saudi Arabia. So at least this fight isn't in Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, that's another kind of positive. We should get a pretty lively crowd, and it should mix in good with the action.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend. It's a jam-packed weekend, Bobby. I'm excited. Plus, you got a little bit of the NBA finals if you're NBA playoffs still going on. You got a little hockey still going. It's a good weekend for sports, but a good weekend for combat sports with, like you said, those top the 2 boxing matches, and then this Prates JDM is going to be. I think obviously as an MMA fan, I'm more of an MMA fan than a boxing fan. So that's the fight I'm looking to for the most. It might be the most intriguing fight that we've had so far especially on these fight nights.
Yeah, no, definitely high quality stakes, and definitely has that don't blink vibe to it for sure. And just to hammer home again for all the people that are not into boxing, that want some primetime MMA, check out the PFL on ESPN2. I really appreciate that they're still continuing to build their name here, putting on cards. I love that they're not getting tripped up with trying to make sure there's a title fight at the top. There should be some pretty intriguing competition down the entire card. Ferreira, the dude Ngannou beat, he's on this card, so be interested to see if he could get a bounce back. And they've done a pretty decent job in matchmaking, aside from all the online Twitter critiques. So I just wanted to give them a shout out there.
Yeah. Real quick, we'll be back next week. We'll talk about all the results of the fights. And Bobby, next Saturday is none other than UFC 326. Chimaev versus Sean Strickland, and Sean's trying to stir up the pot already. He's trying to kind of stir the, get this fight, get the emotions rolling out of Hamzat. He seems not to be bothered so far, but we'll see if that changes next week. And then, speaking of anticipated fights, it was the fight that we missed last month. It's Van versus Tatsuro Taira, and the return of Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Alexander Volkov. So, another intriguing fight at heavyweight. And then, man, the Sean Brady versus Joaquin Buckley, I forgot was on this card.
Because they moved it out of the Apex. Like, that was supposed to be last weekend. So great move by them getting that out of the Apex. I will definitely get into that next week. And yeah, undoubtedly a double title fight next week. Definitely snuck up on us. By far, it's not even close. Joshua Van versus Tyra is my most anticipated fight on that card. So I can't wait to get into that one there.
Yeah. Just continue looking at this card next week. King Green versus Jeremy Stevens makes his return.
Yeah.
So, Atiq Goudier is back after he looked okay his last fight out in April or January. Grant Dawson versus Rebecca. That's a good fight.
And for everyone that wants to bitch about Nate Diaz fighting Mike Perry, that Bobby Green, Jeremy Stevens is like the Temu version of that fight. So, if you're going to call balls and strikes, call balls and strikes. I know you won't. You're just going to hate on the other card. But had to mention that. And I got one actual final thought and question for you.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the Patty stuff and how they're billing kind of International Fight Week. Are you buying or selling that headline fight will be the return of Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway? Because me personally, I am selling. I saw that Islam is in camp. I do think the UFC is hopeful that they can have something figured out. I mean, for Christ's sake, Conor is literally doing promos and stuff for products. So I'm sure he kind of wants to take a fight. I'm not calling him poor or anything, but it definitely seems like he wants to get it. But and I do think the UFC is circling Islam Makhachev versus Ian Gary for the Philly event. But I do think their pivot, if they cannot get International Fight Week booked with Conor, would be to pivot Islam versus Gary. And I'm not going to lie, that is the fight I prefer. It just has far bigger of an impact on the sport going forward. It's a title fight with big stakes where I just don't really know where Conor is. And I honestly, the second part I'm not buying in that is that Max Holloway is the opponent. I'd be kind of surprised if Conor McGregor's first fight back, he's willing to step in against Max Holloway. But
there's nobody else, though. Like, there's nobody else unless it's like Jorge Masvidal.
Brother, they booked him against Cowboy.
That's why I think it's Max Holloway.
The one I probably would have circled for probability would be Masvidal over Max Holloway.
Yeah.
I do deem that a much more winnable fight for Conor. I mean, they're showing future odds, and Conor's like a minus. Is definitely an underdog. Like Max is heavily favored, but I'm not naive. I know number-wise and casual fans like tuning in for the Conor McGregor experience is still a thing. I'm not discounting that. I just am not ready to say it's a foregone conclusion that that's what we're getting, even though it does seem like that's where we're headed.
I don't think Conor's making 155. I think it would have to be at 170.
It's definitely at 170. And that is kind of would be where I see if it would be Max, where he would kind of
Max at 170 is a joke. It is a joke, but I definitely think Max
precisely, Rob. Rob just proved my point. Like the reason he would take the Max fight is if he could just be, hey, I'm ballooned at 170. At least I'll have the size advantage there.
Right. So. Agreed. That's I'm right there with you. But I'm buying it as far as like that. I think it's probably they're trying to get Conor to be done. But I'm 100% with you. Is like they'll pivot to Gary versus Islam if they can't get the Conor fight done. So
and especially because even when it's announced,
what up, Tyler?
Even when it's announced, man, and I'm not trying to be inherently negative, but I'm gonna have to see him in the cage to believe it. Especially,
agreed. It's like they could announce the fucking Conor's fighting back or Conor's coming back, but I'm not gonna believe that he's back until like he's in the cage and they shut the door and Bruce Buffer's still saying, I may not even believe it when Bruce Buffer says, and the notorious Conor McGregor, like that the fight is on.
And there's obviously the UFC has been given some assurances if they're willing to consider building him at the top of a main event. I find it obviously kind of laughable with his pay that they would put him in the co-main. Like they're gonna get their money out of him one way or another. But they're definitely taking that inherent risk if he can get through a camp, and they're not gonna have to pivot last minute. So that honestly is going to be more interesting than the fight itself to me, probably.
Yeah, that same. But we'll see what happens, and we'll be back. Next week, right here for another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. We'll be covering UFC 328 and all the results from this week. Prates versus JDM, an absolute doozy. Wake up, eat some pancakes. Luckily for me, Bobby, I get up at 4:30 every morning anyway, so that won't be no issue for me to wake up and rise and shine and drink some coffee and watch some fights. So can't wait. Other than that, for my guy Bobby Blunts, I'm Bodkins. We'll see you next week right here on Headkicks and Haymakers. Enjoy the fights.
Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, let's talk sport, friends. Thanks for watching.